Back at it again, friendos. You're here with Dave. We're talking Star Wars in the parking lot. A little bit of a departure from the linear discussions on both new Pokemon games, the revival of Dynasty Warriors and its reboot. And we're going to go ahead and favor the Star Wars reboot for tonight. And it is nice to me that over the course of several discussions, I was able to grow, in my opinion. And it really helped me with the sculpting of this project of mine where I want to reboot Star Wars and remake it into a better version of itself. And I've been getting some support on Twitter. I really appreciate some of these cats out here. And I mean, it's really a side effect for me that I've been seeing guys with a little bit of, Star Wars aficionado status, like a badge on their chest. When you generate so many followers, it means that to me, I feel like you're continually putting out good points. You have a weighted opinion, and I look forward to tonight going through some of these followers who I then followed, and hoping that we can get some steam behind this, and really, if they're going to spend probably cumulative billions of dollars on the Star Wars trilogy, why not reboot the original 6 and take out some of the god-awful gashes put in over the years. And I know it's hard to talk about the original 3 because in their time they were so revolutionary and had such an incredible impact, perhaps bolstered by the disappointment of so many fans in different parts of the prequels. Not to say they didn't have disagreements with the original 3. Now, we did talk a lot about, I believe, Anakin Skywalker, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and I do tend to get hung up and just sort of let it flow, because that's how this stuff is written, man. I mean, one good point leads to another, I think, and the more people join this conversation, the more of those moments we'll have until, imagine the greatness of the entire Star Wars fan base being able to pitch in. It's possible with social media, with our connectivity, and with the appreciation that has been revived and added to by the release of Episode 7, I say let's get it started, man. I want to make that a possibility. And today, I really wanted to talk about this discussion I had with my homie, which kicked off, really, the outpouring of some of this information on the reboot. And that was a discussion as to whether Obi-Wan was a better Jedi than Luke. Now, he claimed that Luke was the better Jedi. I claimed Obi-Wan. And I stood on Obi-Wan's impressive military record, all of his achievements throughout the Clone Wars, like his rank as a master, his rank as a general, his great camaraderie with so many different clones and so many other Jedi Masters that really put him at the center of a network. And to me, it does mean something that when Anakin Skywalker transferred mentally into Darth Vader and annihilated so many of the Jedi, who was left? Who did the canon leave? Now, barring the expanded universe, because honestly, the movies are what most people are going to see. And, who was left? Sidious, Darth Vader, Yoda, and Obi-Wan Kenobi. Now, the story was told as to the true, not just Order 66, but the hunting of the Jedi led by Vader, the extermination of so many conclaves, and the reduction in their number to the balanced state of the Force. And I wonder, that was thrown at me multiple times in conceptual ways as to, well, Vader did bring balance to the Force, man, because he brought it down to himself and Sidious on one side and Obi-Wan and Yoda on the other. And then when Luke developed into a Jedi and Leia did have Force intuition, but there it is, man, the rule of two, or excuse me, not necessarily the rule of two, but the master-apprentice relationship on the dark side, and then sort of the reconvergence. And people do say, and it's okay, this is a scarcity, but I've heard it said that the moment that Luke became a Jedi, Obi-Wan disappeared. Because now, to me, no way would that happen in the reboot, because the Force is so much larger than that. And the prophecy surrounding Anakin Skywalker, which in the reboot then becomes more about Luke Skywalker, is that the person that appears at the crucial turning point between a huge shift in balance between the light side and the dark side would be a powerful Jedi, a Force user, a legendary persona, and he would be the chosen one, and he would herald these epic times that were coming. Now, the Jedi Council in the prequels considers that to be Anakin Skywalker because of his obvious, essentially Jedi superpowers in comparison, and with pure natural raw talent being honed ever further by both the dark and the light side, with the dark side winning out in the end. That is why Anakin is considered the chosen one. And then the rise of Luke Skywalker to not combat, because in the reboot, I'm apt to say my version, but in my mind, both of these trilogies are climactic at the end of the third episode in each of them. Because I think Anakin Skywalker has his kids essentially in episode 3, but more towards the beginning of episode 3, and Luke and Leia play a role in the turning of his back entirely on the light side, because he finds out as Luke is a toddler and growing up to be 6 and 7, Luke Skywalker proves to be more powerful than Anakin, and Anakin realizes that he is not the chosen one, and that his son is made almost entirely of the light side, the embodiment of good. And you can tell that, in the waning days of the first galactic civil war between the separatist CIS and the Republic, Anakin, I think, does fight for the Republic for most of that, and then is melded into the dark side by a series of revelations and ploys, and essentially Anakin Skywalker finding out he's been effed over multiple times throughout the course of the Clone War, and all of these ways that the Jedi Council kept thwarting him from achieving major milestones in upping his power, and essentially trying to mold him into what they needed him to be, the same as the dark side was doing through the fallen Jedi Council itself, and all of the offers that had been made to him, just to essentially say, hey, fuck it, we don't care what happens. We're just going to give you the keys to the ancient techniques and what we've studied of the Sith and the shit we've found in deep space that has upped our knowledge, which is allowing us to stand and essentially be in a greater position of advantage over the Jedi Council and the Republic throughout the course of the war. Anakin says, and they just say, hey, look, we'll teach you it and you go nuts, because the dark side's going to win no matter what, and we'll just stay out of your way. And in the wreckage and in your new empire, we just ask that we can continue being fallen Jedi and fuck the Jedi Council. And Anakin says yes. And so I think the third movie is all, and this coming right alongside, Luke growing into the higher single digits and displaying all of these characteristics that would be if Anakin was perfect. And he sees it, and it infuriates him, and he's conflicted not over this romance and the fear of Padme's death, as in the original movies, and prequels, I should say, but is torn between the fact that he wants to destroy his own son so that he can be the most powerful being in the universe, and being horrified that he feels that way, because he knows that he's gone too far, and essentially he chooses to leave for the dark side, because Luke's either going to grow up and be strong enough, if he can survive without the protection of the super powerful Anakin Skywalker, And if Luke can one day defeat him, then the prophecy will have come true, and Luke will balance the Force by destroying the dark side. And okay, so that's how he feels, because that's sort of like he's wrong about the prophecy in the end, but he thinks, okay, Luke will grow up to be strong enough to destroy the... Maybe this is the end of episode 2, in parentheses right there. But, oh yeah, that actually works better, I think. Because then, at the end of episode 2, when Vader abandons his family, abandons the light side, and essentially steals an entire Republic battle fleet by like force manipulating the minds of the tens, if not hundreds of thousands of soldiers that would man a space battle fleet. He melds them all into a sense of like loyalty to him and attacks and shreds like the rest of the fleet that was there with them. Like, he took the most powerful core and fucked up everything else, and essentially not only defects to the Separatists fully and the dark side, the fallen Jedi, but he says like he crowns himself the new emperor. So Darth Vader essentially takes the throne at the end of episode 2, but he's not mechanical yet. And I feel like he's mechanical for all of... Oh, shit. So is that where Obi-Wan comes from? Because Obi-Wan, who was so... Not... Okay, this is crazy, I think, in comparison to the original. But Obi-Wan was Anakin's only and closest friend, a brother, because he thought for years that Obi-Wan was helping him to learn in the Force and, you know, showing him the meaning, like the value of life and all this shit, and that he could be happy and that he could use his, like, the Force to build a new world, and by putting his power to use for the Republic, by staunching out all of the more negative and antagonistic properties that the CIS embody in their meaning for going to war, that he could become essentially the emperor or the leader of the new world, and placating his ego that way. Now, how many years later? 10, 9, 8, somewhere in that range that fits this timeline, when Luke is already a 9-year-old boy, and Obi-Wan has sort of been talking to him, because Anakin was already aware that everybody thought he was the chosen one, and he did too. But Obi-Wan and Yoda, Mace, and some of the other, you know, High Master Council were letting him know Luke is truly the chosen one. And it's because you have given your heart to the light side that, I don't know, like, he was able to, you know, be born, and because of, you know, destiny. And Anakin struggles with, like, acknowledging that and wanting, and then feeling that extreme pang of greed that he had planned his whole life since working with the Jedi to be on being the chosen one and to being the forger of the new world. Now, I think after this time period of him learning about the true nature of Luke, and he's seduced more by the dark side, like the Dark Jedi actually interact with him and say, this is where they reveal the truth about the Jedi Council. However that comes about, we'll think of a sweet way to break that news to Anakin, but he is told of the true nature of the Jedi's relationship with him over all these years, that he truly wasn't the chosen one, and the only way to fulfill the level of destiny epicness he wanted was to ensure that Luke and Leia are destroyed and to leave the Republic forever. Now, I think that, we just revised that scene a little bit. Okay, so this is really episode 3, I suppose, because at the end of episode 2 then, Obi-Wan and Anakin have this super dramatic discussion, and they haven't been beefing yet, almost, okay? So Anakin finds out the truth and destroys like an entire Republic base, leaving only Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan does tell him, he's like, he doesn't even bullshit. He's like, I'm sorry, man. I'm sorry. I wanted to tell you for so long. I was the only one who said we should be honest with you. And I know it doesn't matter, because Anakin is already like Kaioken times 10. He's super pissed, and he's already destroyed so much shit. And he's like, he's like, essentially, Sidious was right. He was like, Sidious was right. I mean, I'm not going to stand here and even have this conversation with you. Like, you are a traitor. You betrayed me. And he instantly justifies everything in himself to go full dark side and says, Padme was in on this, and she fathered these children to supplant me and destroy me. And he's like, after the very fucking second I kill you, that's where I'm going. And I'm going to stamp out this treasonous seed. And Obi-Wan says to him, I think it's more important, he's like, the first day you tried out to be a Jedi and you fought all these people, and then you fought me and you got beat, the reason why they assigned me wasn't because we would make good kindred spirits and you would trust me. The reason why they put me with you is because at any given time, I am so much more skilled than you that I could fucking kill you if you went berserk. All your raw power, he was like, maybe now this will really register with you, as he draws his saber and prepares to fight, is like, let me show you that you really aren't the chosen one, bro. And then an epic fight. I think it was a great duel, but I think I always pictured lightsaber fights being much less about like being fancy with the saber and trying to hit the saber instead of the person you're fighting. Because if you look at the choreography, a lot of times, like, yes, you're trying to get the light flash and the noise as many times as possible to amp everybody up with the effect of lightsaber fighting. But like when you truly want to kill somebody and you truly are imbued with phenomenal power, godlike power, as we humans would see at IRL, and the trained, honed skill of a lightsaber master, and the two best. Now, I think what's really interesting is in the reboot, when Obi-Wan goes next level, I kind of feel like this duel between Anakin and Obi is Anakin finally letting go of everything that was good in him, and therefore unleashes his full potential. And I think it would be a lot better than like an emotionally fueled, angry duel between budding Vader and Obi-Wan. Would be Obi-Wan, Yoda, and like two other surviving badass lightsaber masters, and they're all attacking Anakin at the same time, and Anakin is just handling business, dude. Like, I think what I've always wanted to see was Anakin having then destroyed, in the wreckage of this base, Anakin having just destroyed this base and killed like multiple Jedi before he got to Kenobi. As these other masters step out of the night and the smoke, they were like, haven't you just proved us right? After all this time of us saying you were an evil motherfucker with a power complex, and we kept telling Padme, we kept telling Obi-Wan that the time was come to just execute you. And the time came many times to end you, and we didn't, because he believed in you. He believed that you were the chosen one, even after Luke and Leia were born. And haven't you proved us right by us having to be here right now, as you just fully accepted the dark side and abandoned the light? You weren't strong enough to be the chosen one. And it's your choice, and this is why it has to end this way. And I just imagine Anakin, as his eyes change color, as he's surrounded in like breathing hardcore force energy, like sucking in and controlling dozens of lightsabers from the fallen Jedi in like a spherical whirling blade storm around him to combat these epic Jedi and their force powers. And in the end, the only way that they can do it is to sacrifice what a crazy plot twist, dude, is sacrifice Yoda. And Yoda takes in the full measure of Anakin's unleashed epic level force lightning and absorbs it the way he does against Dooku, and that is fueled by the sacrifice. Oh shit, dude! If there are no Jedi left when Luke gets there, and Luke has to learn the Force on his own, the way that Anakin did, then we can just spin it that way, and that'd be perfect. All the remaining Jedi in the wake of the extinction. But how does that fit in that timeline? I don't know. Anakin fully accepts the dark side and steals the fleet first and adopts the name Darth Sidious, abandoning his family based off his own trepidations, and leaves, takes this and with allying with the fallen Jedi officially and leaving everything behind before mentioning anything about the killing the family. He takes the fleet, blasts out the other parts of the fleet in this epic traitor move. And then I think after being with the dark side, or the fallen Jedi, excuse me, on a campaign for like a short time, the Jedi Masters gather everything they can, and this turns into a huge all-out battle. And oh shit, hold on, it'll come to me. Okay, sorry about that. We're back in it, and I think we can rally with the last 7 minutes. Definitely started getting chronologically crunched right there, and just wanted to think of a way where you can see how this, if you make a mini, nearly complete adventure out of each movie and made them 2.5 hours, you could show everything you needed to show, plus everything you wanted to show, with cutting out a lot of the bullshit and speeding up these timelines by eliminating unnecessary parts of the story. Because as I definitely went around, I YouTubed a ton of Star Wars reboot ideas, and I do say that I didn't hear anything quite like the reboot I've planned, which, I mean, doesn't have a name. Like, there's Pokemon The Convergence and The Unwilling, but this would just be Star Wars again. And I think I'd go without episodes. Oh, fuck that. If it was another 6 episodes, and it was like episode 1... Fall of the Republic, or something like that. Okay, yeah, man, that's a good little track to get off topic on completely. They would definitely be episodic still, but they would be renamed, because I wouldn't want to touch the old names. And it's not going to be a Phantom Menace, the Clone, Attack of the Clones. Is that it? Jesus Christ. Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, definitely doesn't fit. A New Hope, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. Because the extermination of the Jedi, I think, would be the first third of the third movie. So maybe none of this fits. So Vader secedes first. And I think that happens. Anakin secedes towards the end of episode 2. And turns on the Jedi both personally in combat and by stealing these ships, and the tension is dispersed because you've been waiting to see what's actually going to happen with Anakin this whole time. And knowing that, okay, so if Luke and Leia are born in the beginning of episode 2, that can be a thing for him the entire movie until finally this nail in the coffin of finding out what happened from the Jedi Council, right? The fallen Jedi reveal the truth of Anakin's usage and decides to defect, and it leads to a fallout with, let's say, Obi-Wan, and that can be, I don't even think it's a lightsaber fight. I think they have a starship dogfight in the middle of a crazy battle. And then, I don't know. No, imagine Obi-Wan having to ditch and streaking Mach 11 into the orbit, into the atmosphere, and evasive maneuvering, laser, Gatling, and proton torpedoes. He lands, and Vader's... Okay, Anakin leaves his starship essentially as Vader, and it's the first flash of true Vader, where his eyes are molten orange-red, burnt orange, right? And he is pissed, and he's like, how the fuck could you? And they have this huge confrontation. And Obi-Wan, like I said, doesn't lie, doesn't bullshit, tells him straight out, and he's like, I'll fight you if I have to. He's like, we're going to have to fight. There's nothing left. And essentially Anakin does break through, but says, this is the last. He's like, the power has overtaken me, man. And he's like, the grip of the dark side is so strong. You could never understand, because of who you are and your nature, you can never understand what the dark side is like. No drug in the galaxy could compare. And he's hacking, I think, if he's coughing black shit, and because that's what I'm thinking, if the Force is physically overtaking him because he's accepted so much power at once that it starts to burn off his skin and meld, heat meld his flesh, and he's just in agonizing pain and unleashing so much Force power as he fights Obi-Wan. And Obi-Wan, having trained for 10 years straight and training alongside him, learning every way he could to exploit any weakness that was there, or overcome the Force power, or find any way to interfere with Anakin's mind. He throws all of that on him. But Anakin starts to erode the planet itself and causes huge Saiyan-like damage, essentially. And Obi-Wan says, okay, he's like, I understand, if I die here, I can only hope that your power extinguishes itself. And then it's true. Take this whole planet, take this whole system with us. But it still ends here today. And in the end, you won't have been the chosen one. Hopefully, with your fall, Luke can secure the Republic and bring the dream that we had for you to life, because you failed. So do it. And Anakin sacrifices all that's left of himself, mentally, to consume that limitless outburst of Force power in this destructive way. In doing so, leaves Anakin like a burnt flesh sack, the way that we saw. He's not screaming, I hate you. He's done. He's out, man. But Anakin gets that last message across by, he's like, when this body wakes up, it will be Darth Vader. Essentially, it'll be another, this is all that's left of me, and tell Luke he has to succeed, and I love Leia, and that sort of redemption type shit without the long drawn out son shit. And sacrifices himself, and the fallen Jedi recover him, and they turn him into Darth Vader.